Welcome to the Central Indiana Sports Report's Class 4A Sectional 21 preview with myself, Greg Mengelt, Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader, Grant Shouse of the Action Sports Network, the Herald-Bulletin's Rob Hunt, Cade Hampton of the Muncie Star-Press, and Pendleton Heights head coach Jed Richman. Before we get to our interviews and predictions, which will come up at the end of the podcast, please let me quickly tell you about what's going on at the Central Indiana Sports Report. We have IU, Purdue, Pacers, Colts, Fever, and IndyCar weekly shows. We also have previews and reactions after each game, or race in the case of IndyCar. We also preview all of the high school football games and make our predictions every week, and have a scoreboard show after the games are over on Friday night. Michelle will join me this Friday for our Week 10 previews and predictions and our contest picking games against the other area media. Please check it out. It's a lot of fun. We'll also have a scoreboard on Friday night. You know what I learned this week that's a little weird? If you hit that like button, it helps spread our podcast around to others. If you enjoy the podcast and think we're worthy of sharing, we would really appreciate it if you do that for us. Probably also want to subscribe too. We start our Sectional 21 preview with Rob Hunt of the Herald-Bulletin, who covers the Pendleton Heights Arabians, the favorite in the sectional. Then we hear from Cade Hampton of the Muncie Star-Press, who covers Yorktown, the top contender to the Arabians in Sectional 20. The podcast finishes with Pendleton Heights head coach Jed Richman's thoughts on the sectional. Then Michelle, Grant, and I will predict our sectional champions. Yorktown has week 1 of the sectional off and will play either 5-4 Greenfield Central or 2-7 Newcastle next Friday in the semifinals. Pendleton goes to Fortville to face winless Mount Vernon and will face either 6-3 Beech Grove or 3-6 Richmond in the other semifinal round. Here's Rob Hunt of the Herald-Bulletin, followed by Cade Hampton and Jed Richman before Michelle, Grant, and I return with our picks. We have 12 of the sectional previews out on Friday, so it was a long couple of days. Please excuse any editing errors. We continue our coverage of Sectional 21 with the Anderson Herald-Bulletin's Rob Hunt. Rob covers the Pendleton Heights Arabians, who are the favorites in this sectional. Rob, what a season for Pendleton Heights. I did not see it coming.
I think we thought they had some pieces in place. Coach Richmond does a phenomenal job over there year in and year out. This is by far the best season they've had. And it's a conference where everybody's playing for second place. We know that. I think everybody kind of knows that with 5A powerhouse New Pal in there. And they've had a great year. One loss, which was the New Pal, and I think they are the favorite in this sectional. I think Yorktown can give them a battle. Maybe Beech Grove. We'll see who they play later down the road. But I think Pendleton Heights is the team to beat in this sectional.
Hey, Rob, do you think knowing that New Pal moved up a class gave Pendleton Heights a little bit more excitement for this football season, knowing they weren't going to have to see him in their sectional or anywhere in the tournament?
I don't know that kids think like that so much. I don't know. It's possible. I think Coach Richmond's he's never made excuses for any losses. Doesn't matter if it's the team like New Pal, which is one of the very, very top premier programs in the state, is somebody that they should beat year in and year out. He's never made excuses for stuff like that. I think maybe a little extra. Maybe there is. I'm sure there's extra excitement amongst the student body and the fan base, but I don't know if the players think like that.
All I know is they lost their top running back. He's playing in college football. They lost the quarterback. He's playing in college football. And yet here they are, better than last year.
Yeah, I think you look at what Coach Richmond does. It's a program. It's one thing that's always been kind of consistent over the years is if a guy goes down, there's another guy ready to take his place. That happens whether it's an injury or whether it's graduation. And what we've seen, particularly with Joel Weaver, the running back, just a huge, big play potential out of the backfield. And Brant Gray is just very consistent, efficient, and just doesn't make very many mistakes. And that's because of that whole system that these kids all buy into. They've been playing it. Richmond's been there now a while. These kids have now been playing in the system since fourth, fifth grade, since they very first started playing football. And by the time they get to the high school level, they're ready to go. They're ready to play at the high school level and playing it. And this year, playing it at a very high level.
Hey, Rob, are there any players that maybe surprised you this year because they had breakout seasons, and maybe even surprised the coaching staff?
Well, I think you start with what Weaver has done out of the backfield. He's over 800 yards. This last game he had down at Shelbyville, he was over 200 yards. He only had 8 carries. He broke off some big runs, and I think he's been that guy, not just with the big plays, but also when they need to run some clock in a close game. He's able to do that. I don't know how big a surprise. He just surprised us, right? I mean, we didn't know about him before this year, but the coaches know, and Brandon Gray stepping in and playing quarterback at the high level he has. I think a guy who's a little under the radar just because he plays a position that doesn't necessarily garner a lot of statistics, a lot of attention is Luke Graham, the offensive lineman. This is a road grader D1 level kid who and the whole line is really good. I mean, these guys win in the trenches night in and night out. Weaver's a smart kid. If he gets the ball, he's gonna run behind big Luke Graham, and the hole's gonna be there.
Rob, I know you don't make a lot of predictions, but I'm guessing if you did make predictions, you'd predict the Arabians win this sectional.
I certainly would predict them to win this game. It's funny that it wasn't that long ago that Mount Vernon was the team that was, runner up in the conference to New Pal and made a run to the state and all that. It was not that long ago, and here they are 0-9. And Pendleton absolutely ran them out of the building, out of their own building just a few weeks ago. So yeah, I think Pendleton Heights moves on here. We'll see what the semifinal matchup looks like. If I'm not mistaken, it would be at Newcastle, or they could host Greenfield. And then it looks like, based on last week, good chance Pendleton's hosting Greenfield next week.
Not an easy path, but I agree. I think this is going to be a memorable season, a continuation of a memorable season for Pendleton Heights. Thanks so much, Rob.
Yeah, and I think the bracket broke down pretty well for them. They're only going to have to play either Beech Grove or Yorktown, who are kind of the other two teams that you look at in this sectional. They're on the other side of the bracket. They're going to obviously eliminate one is going to eliminate the other. So, you're going to have to deal with one of them down the road. So that helped a little bit. The path to the final is a little easier, but that'll be a tough championship game.
We continue our preview of Class 4A Sectional 21 with Muncie Star-Press sports editor Cade Hampton, who covers the Yorktown Tigers and the Newcastle Trojans for the Star-Press. And Yorktown in particular, Cade, has had an incredible season and really has to feel like it can win this sectional.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've really come on strong. Their defensive front is really good with Jabin Barnes, Chris Wilson, Henry Tokar up there. Those kind of three-headed monster teams have had a lot of trouble handling that in the trenches. But offensively, the quarterback, Sam Tokar, is really taking a step up, and he's got a good crop of weapons there for him. So a bit of a disappointing loss to Pendleton Heights a couple weeks ago, and they're kind of the sectional favorite there in that one. So going to be interesting if that ends up being a sectional championship rematch. I know both teams are going to be really looking forward to that if they take care of business the first 2 weeks. But also got to feel like Yorktown, kind of feels good drawing a bye week the first round, so they won't play until next Friday. And Beech Grove, a potentially pretty tough sleeper matchup there for them. Got to stay focused on that before you start looking ahead to a potential sectional championship. But I think those kids, those coaches, they definitely want another crack at Pendleton Heights, and they certainly could give them another run for their money. That was a close game the first time around.
Well, and chances are, if that happens, unfortunately chances are if that happens, Yorktown will get to host it because they have to be on the road in week 2 because bye teams always have to travel. And then, Pendleton Heights, they're on the road week 1, but Greenfield should beat Newcastle, which means in then
If Newcastle wins that game, then
then if Newcastle wins that game, then that means that rematch is probably at Pendleton Heights. Does Newcastle have anything for Greenfield, do you think?
That Newcastle team was is extremely very banged up. They've lost a lot of their productive players, both sides of the ball. A lot of starters down for the season. Happened early in the year, and I know Coach York down there was very excited about the team and the seniors he had, and it just didn't come together because of the sheer amount of injuries that they had to deal with. So unfortunately, I don't really foresee Newcastle pushing Greenfield Central. I don't think that matchup was particularly close in the regular season either. So,
But
it'll.
could they upset if Greenfield is caught looking ahead to a week 2 matchup with Pendleton Heights, which I could obviously see that if Greenfield beat Newcastle easily the first time, I you figure Pendleton Heights is going to win. I mean, I know Mount Vernon, you would never think that. So that's my only question. If because Greenfield beat Newcastle, I know 62-27. So there's a very real possibility that those kids are looking ahead, and coaches usually don't, but like I said earlier, players do. So does Newcastle have something enough if to catch Greenfield if they are looking ahead and not if they're thinking it's going to be a walkover on Friday?
They do still have a couple of playmakers on offense. I know Tylen Thrine, the running back, he's kind of a gadget guy, does a little bit of everything for him, and Elijah Turner as well at wide receiver. He's a big-bodied, and they have a solid junior quarterback, kind of similar situation to Yorktown, a guy who started as a sophomore kind of unexpectedly and has come in the next year a lot more confident in Carson Bell, but I know their top receiver, Cade Loxton, went down really early in the season with a knee injury, and he's been out ever since. And he kind of was the main thing that made that offense go, it seemed like. So, and then defensively, they're so banged up over there defensively. I mean, obviously, you saw that score, and they've been giving up a lot of points. So they have the offensive playmakers, like I said, to potentially put some points on the board, put a scare in Greenfield Central early, but I think defensively, I would expect Greenfield Central to win that one.
And Cade, and Yorktown took out their frustration of the loss on Pendleton Heights on Mount Vernon, 72-0. I bet they don't even want to buy.
Yeah, honestly, sometimes seems like a bye week. You kind of come out of those a little sluggish sometimes, it feels like. And obviously, it's nice to get rested, get healthy, and spend that week just scouting your next opponent, But, sometimes a bye week can kind of have the opposite effect where you come out just a little sluggish after the fact. And sometimes coaches want to keep their guys just in a zone and in the same schedule. So that could be potentially tough to deal with, but I don't really foresee it being a problem for this Yorktown team.
To start my interview with Pendleton Heights head coach Jed Richman, I asked him what this 8-1 season has been like for him and his Arabians.
It's been a fun one. It's a special group. We've been building. Last year, we went on a nice run to the championship, and so we had a lot of motivation in the off season, and I knew we had to put a lot of work in, and the kids did a great job.
I was gonna mention this last, but since you kind of mentioned it, let me go ahead. I bet you're really glad to have New Pal out of your sectional. I also bet playing them earlier this year did a lot of good for your team.
It did. We've been pretty good against everybody except them, and they're
everyone else.
They are something else. I told the Indy Star last week, I haven't watched Carmel or Brownsburg, but I don't know if anybody could match with them except those two, maybe Center Grove. They are really, really good at any class. We're fortunate to have them in our conference, or unfortunate, however you look at it, but they definitely are they show you where you're at. And in that game, it was very disappointing. I think our kids were frustrated with themselves. And I'm really proud of them because it wasn't a lot of hard coaching. There's a lot of honesty, but I think the kids were more frustrated that dang, we let an opportunity slip away to compete. And New Pal almost took us more serious than we did. And It's one of those things that you live and you learn, and we've made the best of it since then.
I think you go into this sectional maybe as the favorite, an opportunity to end a drought that's gone on since that 2011 team.
We got to go back through the conference, and it's never easy. Mount Vernon's had a tough year, but they're a rival and never someone who lacks respect from us. We have a ton of respect for them, and then Greenfield or Newcastle, one of them next. Obviously, it's a 7 team, so we'll see. Yorktown's probably the favorite on that side, but Beech Grove's pretty good too. So you never know what you get. So we just got to keep getting better and go play whoever's next.
You beat Mount Vernon 56-13 in week 6, but like you said, they're a rival, and that's a program that knows how to win. And when you say Mount Vernon, your kids know what that means.
Yeah, they do, and their kids know what Pendleton means, and I think they consider some of the Hancock County schools a little bit more of a rival, but there's a lot of commonality between the two schools, whether it's family or history. 6 points is the most Pendleton's ever put up on them. That kind of shocked me when our Weem radio staff told me that that was a school record against them. Because with the offenses Coach Broughton had, I would have assumed that was not true. But it's always been a good game. It's always been a tough game, and they got the better of us a lot of times since I've been here, and we've been competitive, but they've just got the better of us, and it's nice to be on the other side.
What is it about your team that makes you believe that this will end up in a sectional championship?
I think we're resilient. Outside of New Pal, our 2 toughest tests, Lebanon, which we got a big lead on them. Not a big lead, but it was 21-7. We held on and shut them down at the end, and they've had a great year. And our second closest game was just a couple weeks ago at Yorktown, and man, we came out kind of not flat, but just it was a fall break game, and man, we just they got after us, and all of a sudden it's 10-0, and we scored 24 unanswered, and we were on cruise control, and we drop a big 3rd down pass, and we let them in the back door. And but we held at the end and on a goal line stand and beat them. And they're a really good team, quality team, well coached. Yeah. And but our kids never, you do this long enough, there was never any like panic on the sideline. When it was 10-0, nobody's getting after one another. There's nobody barking at one another. The coaches aren't, we didn't have to motivate them. We're like, hey, play next play. It was just common language, and it was very calm and almost kind of weird. As I reflect back on that game, it's just like that's what this group kind of has. They have a confidence and a togetherness with that confidence that's they don't waver, and there'll be more adversity coming in the tournament, and I think they'll handle it. I think we're gonna be a tough out for anybody.
Coach Richman, thank you so much for your time, and good luck.
Hey, thank you. Go Arabians.
Thanks so much to Michelle and Grant and Rob and Cade for joining me, and a special thank you to Pendleton Heights head coach Jed Richman for joining the podcast. Please do us a huge favor and share this podcast with a football fan in your life. Help spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here, talking about Central Indiana sports every single day. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.